content of the lesson, we're going to dive into the suggested structure. Now that we know what's included in the key content of the lesson, we're going to dive into the suggested structure of a Fish Tank ELA lesson. Fish Tank ELA lessons are built for a 60. Now that we know what's included in the key content of the lesson, we're going to dive into the suggested structure of a Fish Tank ELA lesson. Fish Tank ELA lessons are built for a 60-minute block, and you'll see here our suggestions for how the lesson should be structured. In this video, we'll dive into each of these components and their purpose. Fish Tank ELA lessons are built on the assumption that students have read the text for homework and directions are included for homework in the previous lesson. Our teacher tool, Independent Reading for Homework, provides suggestions for how to set students up for success with reading independently for homework. This includes strategies for accountability, building stamina, and student engagement, all important parts of making sure students are able to read prior to class. The first part of the Fish Tank ELA lesson is a comprehension review and vocabulary section. This should take roughly 5 minutes. In this section, students quickly review content and vocabulary from previous lessons to ensure that they are holding on to key concepts and vocabulary. A key goal of this segment of the lesson is to ensure that students have a literal understanding of the text. Reviewing literal meaning of the homework from the night before can happen by quickly reviewing 1 to 2 of the comprehension questions that are the highest leverage for the lesson, using the questions as a comprehension quiz, having students check their answers with partners, or correcting any misconceptions before launching into the close reading. Finally, in this section, teachers explicitly teach any new vocabulary words. The next section is building background and engagement. This is where any necessary background knowledge is taught that students will need to access the text or engage in close reading. If there's a need for instruction in the core standards of the lesson, this is also where it happens. You'll notice that this section includes supporting all students boxes. This is where teachers can find suggested student supports. All enhanced lesson plans have these supporting all students boxes. It's not expected that you'll use all of the supports in these boxes. You'll choose supports to use based on your students' needs when you intellectually prepare to teach the lesson. In the next module, we'll talk about how you'll decide which of these supports you'll want to use with your students. The next section is engaging with the text. This is the heart of the lesson where you'll spend the majority of time, roughly 25 to 30 minutes. In this section, students engage with the text by answering key questions using a combination of academic discourse and writing. It's not intended for students to read and answer questions independently during this time. During intellectual preparation, teachers can decide how they want students to engage with each of the key questions. Sample student responses are provided to ensure students are answering the questions correctly and at the right level of depth. Again, in this section, you'll notice the supporting all students boxes. These are supports for engaging with the key questions. The support will vary depending on the question, but often include scaffolding questions, moments to analyze, and language supports, all of which can be used to set students up for success with the key question. In every lesson, we've picked one key question and provided detailed guidance for running a close read using one of 4 close reading protocols. These protocols include language sensitivity analysis, multi-layer read, line by line, and studying the evidence. We'll dive more into these close reading structures in the next segment of this module. The next section is the target task. This is when students are asked to think critically about the text. Students use what they learned and practiced during the close read to independently analyze the text and answer the close read and answer the target task question. Students can answer the question using a combination of academic discourse and writing. Although students should be writing for a minimum of 15 minutes every day in order to build writing fluency. The target task questions can be used to monitor student progress, especially on standards and strategies students have practiced multiple times across the unit. Finally, the next section is the closing. The closing is an opportunity for discussion that allows students to make connections between the text and real life and to build engagement. This is also a time when students can synthesize key ideas, understandings, and the knowledge that they're building. The discussion is not meant to be rigorous academic discourse, which happens when answering the close reading questions, or during Socratic seminar lessons. In some lessons, there's an exit ticket which can be given at the end of the class period. These can be used as a check for student understanding of key lesson concepts and ideas. They're not included in every lesson, and when they are there, they include a short response or multiple choice question that is aligned to the key standard or knowledge that students are building.